The highly awaited next chapter of Resident Evil is almost here and critic reviews are in. The world is buzzing. Will the Resident Evil hot streak continue, or have the wheels finally fallen off this joyride of thrills and horror? Now, I could draw this out and hit you with some edge-of-your-seat suspense, but I'm not a master of that like Capcom is, so let's just jump scare you with it. It's good! Like, really good! I hope you have your hopes set high because survey says people love it, and you likely will too. OpenCritic already has the game at a 90 top critic average with a whopping 98% recommendation rate, giving it the score of mighty. Up and down, we are seeing some top percentile scores across the industry, so let's jump right into why, starting with GameRant's own Dalton Cooper. Off the bat, Dalton clocks that Resident Evil draws from two different eras of the franchise. Grace's sections are described as a blend of classic Resident Evil exploration and the modern first-person horror style. Limited ammo, solving puzzles, and running from things you can't kill. Leon, on the other hand, has been given an upgraded version of the action-packed gameplay he became synonymous with starting in Resident Evil 4. Turning him into Capcom's answer to John Wick and using tools and really anything he can get his hands on to mow through zombies in a cathartic, almost flow state of violence. The review notes that this sort of tonal shift could throw the entire balance of the game off if done poorly. Luckily, they've knocked it out of the park, with Grace's section using fear to build tension before giving the audience some violent emotional release as Leon. Even their inventory plays differently in a way that only enhances the experience, with Grace getting the old school limited slot style and Leon using the RE4 rotate the weapon to fit inventory, reminiscent of me playing Tetris with my luggage in the car. I mean that in the best possible way. As a note, you can play the entire game in first or third person, but as Dalton states, Capcom recommends first person for Grace Ashcroft segments and third person for Leon S. Kennedy segments. This is the way I played the game for my initial playthrough, and while I experimented with swapping the perspectives, Requiem hits harder when sticking to first person for Grace and third person for Leon. First person heightens the sheer horror of Grace's ordeal, while third person lets Leon's action-packed third person segments truly shine. The story shines quite a bit as well, with our review stating that it's one of the best in the franchise, brilliantly paced, genuinely shocking at times, and featuring a great memorable new villain in Victor Gideon. Between that gripping story, amazingly balanced gameplay, eye-popping graphics that we've come to expect from the RE engine, it sounds like Capcom may have one of their best Resident Evil games to date, if not one of the best games in their catalog. But that's just one review. What does the rest of the world have to say? A lot of the same great things, actually. Jasmine Gold Wilson of Games Radar Plus states, Capcom is on its A game. I've been whipped between moments of pure terror, fist pumping at some of the ridiculous action I've seen, and become genuinely weepy as the characters' journeys entwine for moments of true deep catharsis. She notes that it does a great job tying up the many loose ends the series has given us throughout the decades, and the story is only lifted further by the delicate balance executed in gameplay styles. Wesley LeBlanc at Game Informer calls Requiem Resident Evil at its finest. While maintaining just enough camp as expected in the Resident Evil franchise, Wesley states that Grace's time on screen maintains a dreadful march of atrocity, agony, and heart, and right before feeling overindulgent, Leon steps in to roundhouse kick it in the face. He points out that the post-game rewards and unlockables, which remain after the first playthrough, demonstrates Capcom's confidence. It knows I will be playing it again and again. Like, truthfully, I'm trying to find some bad or at least meh reviews in the sea of glowing, but it's not easy. Dan Reichert of Giant Bomb, and true story, my former cubicle mate over at WWE, does say it's undeniably cathartic to go from survival mode to Schwarzenegger mode, and it serves to shake up the gameplay in fairly regular intervals. But I couldn't help but feel like I was getting a little less of what I wanted from everything. I loved upgrading weapons in Resident Evil 4 over the course of the game, turning pea shooters into formidable death dealers by the end. You can still upgrade your guns as Leon, but it all feels like it's on an abbreviated and rushed schedule. Granted, this is still from a 4.5 out of 5-star review, so I don't think it's taken much away. The lowest I could find is from Chance Townsend at Mashable with a 3.75 out of 5, so still good. The biggest issue seeming to be the heavy reliance on nostalgia, saying it feels, quote, both intentional and a little exhausting. From the overall layout of the care center to the structure of its objectives, the return of familiar enemy types, and even another trip back to Raccoon City, the game is overflowing with callbacks to earlier entries, but it is especially obsessed with Resident Evil 2. That still doesn't keep the reviewer, and really everyone who's played the game so far, from having a great time with the game. And with a 90 top critic average and 98% recommendation rate on OpenCritic, a score I've already had to rewrite multiple times in the script because it keeps rising, puts this game solidly at a mighty and potentially as a Game of the Year candidate. Look, if you're a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, you'll like this game. If you like horror, you'll like this game. I mean, honestly, from the way people make it sound, you could play primarily Candy Crush and Stardew Valley and you'll still probably like this game. The only barrier I've heard is the story asking for some familiarity with the biggest moments in the franchise's canon lore. But if you've only played 7 and 8 up to this point, then 9 sounds more like a reason to visit the back catalog than a reason to avoid it. Or at least play through the remakes. Or hell, shameless self-promotion, check out our brief Resident Evil history videos we have on the channel here. And while you do that, tell us if you think you'll be spending your weekend playing through Requiem. Chances are, if you got this far in the video, the answer is probably yes. And if you found this roundup useful, then stick with us as there are plenty more coming right here on GameRant.